Some scripture readings are beautiful. They're prosaic and they're subtle, and they can contain all kinds of contemplation points for us to move forward on. We can gently sit there and meditate on the various points. They're beautiful. Today's scripture is not one of them. Today's scripture is right in your head. I could have had a V8. That's the nature of this homily today. I could have had a V8. Because we have this man here who is dressed in purple garments and fine linen. Now, in today's day and age, we don't dress in purple garments and fine linen. But we do dress in expensive suits and Hermes ties and carry Coach leather every place we go. And in the midst of our daily routine, we step over a lot of people named Lazarus. We don't even notice them. They're out there, begging us for a little bit of attention, for a little bit of help, for a little bit of money. But we're too busy doing. We don't want to bend over to help them because somehow our expensive time may get stained. See, the difficult part of today's scripture is it's not about this man in the past who stepped over Lazarus. Did you notice the rich man doesn't have a name? There's no name. It's a blank, and it's meant to insert your name. You're the rich man. We're the rich men. We live our lives and step over those people who we should be paying attention to. Now, it's the type of thing that we don't even notice and we shouldn't get too upset over, but we should be bothered a little bit. When I first read this during the week, I was thinking, for 3 years I drove up to UMass every day to work in the Catholic Center up there. And as you get off the Northampton exit, just before you go over that bridge over to Hadley, there was always somebody standing there begging for money. And I never, ever opened my window to give them anything. Inside, it was a meanness about me. Get a job. I earned my money. Why don't you go earn yours? It was rumbling here. I didn't say that to him, but I just kept going. Each one of us in our lives has an experience like that. Some blatant, some not. But we're all the rich man. So what happens to the rich man when he dies? What happens to Lazarus when he's died? That's the uncomfortable part for us, because we do a little inventory of our lives, a little inventory of our actions, and we get nervous. What's going to happen to us? Are we going to be welcomed by Abraham, or we have an eternity of torment? Somebody I saw this week compared it to an oyster. Now, an oyster, if you put a couple of grains of sand in it, it's very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, it causes tension and friction, but out of that friction comes a pearl. And I wonder whether this gospel is not meant for the same purpose as for all of us. Makes us uncomfortable, causes a little unease, but whether that tension and that pressure is to turn us into something that we're not headed for. The rich man begs Abraham to send Lazarus to give him some relief. And Abraham says, sorry, it's too late. We never want to get into that position. We never want to get to the point that it's too late. And the third part of this gospel is when the rich man figures out what he has done wrong and says, send someone to warn my brothers, so they will not suffer a similar fate. Warn them. Again, have we been warned? It goes so far as you read this. Abraham said, even if we raise someone from the dead, you won't listen to them. Well, guess what? We have someone from the dead who has been raised from the dead, warning us, guiding us, imploring us to do things the right way. How often do we ignore him? Now, the great prophets and Moses were there earlier, but now we have Jesus to guide us. And too often we ignore him. And look where it's going to get us. This is a very uncomfortable gospel. There's no subtlety to it at all. We are being called to wake up, to straighten out. We have got lots of heralds around us. Jesus, the saints, Pope Francis are all pushing us in the same direction. Pay attention to the people around you, because it matters in the long run. One of the great quotes of Mother Teresa was, she said, I don't know what it's going to be like when I get to heaven, but I do know the Lord is not going to ask me how many great things I accumulated. He is going to ask me how I lived my life with great love. It's not accumulation of wealth, it's love. That's uncomfortable again. It's not easy. But we're trying to turn ourselves into those pearls. We're trying to turn ourselves to the point that we listen to those who are sent before us. We listen to those people who are here to guide us. And we straighten out our lives. There's nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing wrong with great things, as long as it's mixed with love. Cardinal Bernardin was a cardinal in Chicago for many years. And he went to a meeting with the seminary benefactors one day. Great place out in the outskirts of Chicago, and a lot of rich people who had been there at a meeting and given the seminary oodles and oodles of money. And he read this gospel to them for their benefit. He said, thank you for everything you do for this place. We couldn't do it without you. But I want you to remember one thing. The poor who are all around us are there to help us get to heaven. You, with your wealth and power, have helped this seminary survive, but the poor are just as important in your life, because they will help you get to heaven.